Everyone, and welcome to the Blue Monday Manchester City podcast. And today, if you didn't know, the season is just about to begin. Now, the other day, Manchester City sent me this through the post, and I thought we might as well open it up on the podcast to start things up. As you can see here, this is what all the season ticket members, as far as I know, are just the normal standard season tickets, have received. Now, if you didn't know, the reason why your season ticket's probably gone up 10-15 quid in a lot of areas is because of the size of the box. Look at it. That's a big difference from last season's box. Huge, big difference in. That's the reason where your money goes, fellas. So let's crack it open. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, the first thing first. Let's just hide this season ticket away. The first thing first is your 2017-18 season starts now. Thank you for your incredible support you've given me, my staff and my team over the past season. So he obviously hasn't seen my podcast, so thanks for that, Pep. Anyway, nice bit of tin action there. Let's crack it open. As you can see here, some of the best goals scored in the Premier League. Got ourselves a little cheeky book, something inside here. What have we got in here? We've got some supporter information, just in case you've never been before. And all the rest of the usual shite. Got some stickers. The best team in London or the world. Someone didn't get the memo that Real Madrid won the Champions League and the Super Cup last year. And as you can see, a couple of City stickers. After that, you get a few hospitality load of rubbish. On top of that, what else have we got here? Some stadium tour, just in case you've never been to the ground before. Followed that up with a cheeky code. What's that? City store code. Brilliant. It basically means you can get a shirt for semi-normal amounts of prices, which it costs most people anyway. We've got ourselves a bit of a badge. Very, very helpful indeed. You can't go wrong with a badge. He's probably some geezer always around somewhere. He's got about 750,000 badges. I've got one of those every single year, but this is pretty nice. I've got to say, a new little scarf, as you can see there. A nice scarf. That's probably one of the better things we've ever got in our season ticket things. But there you go. That's the full collection. Here's the final thing. It says, please find and close the City scarf from your season pack. The final design was chosen by you, our fans. Please bring it with you to our first game of the season v Everton. And I will do. Thank you very much for that, Manchester City. It's not like we just had to pay a load of money. Anyway, let's get into the podcast. Everyone, this is your boy Feltouch here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Manchester City Blue Monday podcast. It's the first episode of the 2017-18 season, and you know what? I am very, very excited for the season coming ahead. So in today's episode, we've got a lot to preview. Talk about the pre-season friendlies, also talk about the upcoming game against Brighton, as well as assessing the transfers, the ins and outs of Manchester City which have occurred over the summer. So there's lots and lots to talk about in today's episode. And today, let's start things off by looking at the pre-season fixtures. What's been happening for during Manchester City's pre-season? To be honest with you, it has been largely very, very positive. We've seen the new signings get plenty of opportunities, lots of young lads as well from the academy being given game time as well, which is very, very promising indeed. And that's exactly what Pep, I think, has been wanting to do since he came to City, but whether that will materialise over the next couple of years, we'll have to see if he actually sticks in the job as well for that amount of time. But nonetheless, the pre-season games were very, very positive indeed. It started off against Manchester United, and despite us conceding a few goals fairly on into the game, City still was able to just in that game gain a bit of fitness, of course, in that fixture. It was the first derby played overseas. It was all really, really overhyped, and to be honest with you, I was a little bit surprised with the American tour just how many people actually came and attended the games, especially that big derby fixture. Well, I say big derby fixture, sort of enhanced, I should say, for the American audience, but nonetheless, still, it was still a decent fixture. City, a few bits of fitness, and of course, it was our first game, whereas United had played a couple previous to that. But it was just a nice way to assess how City were doing already in that game. And then moving on, we came up to the next fixture against Real Madrid, and City put in a superb performance, winning that game by 3-1. We tried our new formation, we played with wing backs, and it worked extremely well. I have to say, we looked fairly solid at the back until a few things changed towards the end. And of course, on top of that, the goals which we scored in that game was superb. Absolutely fantastic. It's great to see. Nice to see some of the young boys also get given chances. Brahim Diaz scoring in that game. Raheem Sterling scoring in that game. Plenty and plenty of positive signs from that fixture as well. Moving into the Tottenham game, complete domination in that fixture. Tottenham were a side which we can keep on hearing about how they've been so good over the last couple of years. We've really seen them push on and become a top 4 side over the last couple of years as well, and now they should really perhaps be title contenders. But the way City played in that fixture, or the way that Spurs played in particular, it sort of made City look like a quality side, and maybe showing to me that City are perhaps the team to be reckoned with in the Premier League this season. Really positive performance, 3-0 in that game, and Spurs didn't really ever get a chance. It could have honestly been 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 goals in that game. It was ridiculous the amount of chances City had. And then it was finally capped off by a fixture in Iceland against West Ham United, a very, very positive 3-0 win in that game as well. Nice to see our strikers finally get on the goal scoring sheet just before the start of the season begins. Very, very happy with that indeed. So, after pre-season, assessing it, it seems like it's worked out very, very well for City. We've seen a few new formations. We've seen young players coming into the side. Your Phil Fodens, your Brahim Diaz's. I've seen D'Amico Duhaney playing quite a lot of games as well. There's lots of young players being given opportunities, and in particular, one man shone the most is perhaps Phil Foden. He's not very tall, but the way he plays is so uncharacteristic for a young English player, and that's exactly what I like about him. He very much fits the Barcelona mould of a sort of player. People have said he's similar to David Silva. I think that's completely untrue. I think he's more similar to someone like a Bernardo Silva, perhaps, who City have brought in. He's quite lean, but he's also very, very quick, skillful, athletic, and that's exactly what I like about him. And hopefully, he's going to be given game time this season. Similar in a way as Brahim Diaz, but he's a winger, in fact. He gets goals, though, which is nice to see during his pre-season tour, so hopefully he'll be able to get a couple of opportunities during the season as it progresses. And a very, very positive in terms of the way City have tried out a few different formations. The three at the back, similar to what Chelsea have employed last season, has worked out very, very well. City, especially with the new wing-backs, have got so much more pace in the side, and also I think it helps out defensively as well with the back three, because we're not just having to rely on company there. I think Stones and Otamendi will both benefit from this formation rather than two having to play individually, and I think it really does help the side, just the way playing that 3-5-2 formation. Whether that'll actually happen during the start of the season, we'll have to see. I think we will see it a lot more than we did last year. We didn't really have the personnel in the side in order to play that system. Kolarov was only the real wing-back in any way, shape or form. Clichy wasn't good enough going forward. He certainly doesn't have the pace he had a few years ago. Same with Kolarov, he's not quick enough. And also the right-backs were certainly nowhere near quick enough at all to really play that 3-5-2 formation last season. So City looked very, very impressive in all those pre-season games. And now we're going to take a look at some of the transfers. Of course, you should know all of them who've come in and gone out of the club, but I'm going to be assessing the ones who I think are going to be the key players for the side this next season. So Benjamin Mendy is the biggest spender of the summer. He cost us around £52 million, which is a huge amount of money for a left-back at the time. Lots of people are very critical of Manchester City, but I have to say, when I've seen this boy play in the past, he's a very, very big unit. It's nice to have some bigger men in the side, and he gets forward down that left-hand side very, very well. He picked up quite a lot of assists last season for Monaco. Of course, they did score a ridiculously high number of goals, but he'll very, very much fit into this City side, especially if we are playing with this left wing-back formation, because he does like getting down that side of the pitch. On the other side, of course, Kyle Walker's bought for £50 million, a lot of money was spent on him. I did a video talking about how he's going to be such a crucial player for Manchester City this next season. Not only is he English, he's a very, very decent player. He's quick. He's going to fit into our system very well if we do try and adapt this 3-5-2 formation. The next player is Bernardo Silva. We really haven't had too much of a look at him so far. He only sort of came on towards the end of that West Ham fixture, but he looked pretty positive in that. Pep's very, very happy with him. He was talking about how he was honoured to be able to have the chance to coach Bernardo Silva. Still only 22 years of age, £45 million. He was exceptional in the Champions League last season. And when you consider the fact that someone like Gylfi Sigurdsson, as good a player as he is, has cost £50 million perhaps for Everton if they do go ahead and sign him. For me, a guy who's had Champions League experience, played at international level at a very, very top level, and looks very, very decent as well. Perhaps the long-term successor, perhaps, for David Silva. Very, very impressive to sign him for £45 million. I think that could perhaps be a steal in today's current market. On top of that, Ederson, we brought in a new keeper. I think we were desperate for one. I think Joe Hart last season showed when he was on loan at Torino that he perhaps isn't good enough anymore. I think a few people secretly knew that. I think we were just a lot of the time frustrated about Bravo and Caballero's performances at times last season. But Ederson in his pre-season, he's looked very happy to get off his line. That's one thing I have to say. He's very quick to get off his line. A little bit too much. At times slightly suicidal, and it does worry me just the way he comes running off his line. He's shown it a few times, and unfortunately it happened poorly against Manchester United when Lukaku scored, but also worked the other way around when he played against West Ham and came sweeping off his line. His kick has also been shown to be exceptional. He can boot the ball very far down the pitch, and that is something to be kept a little bit excited about. Danilo is the final really big transfer. He was brought into the football club for £26-27 million, and has so far been looking like the signing of the summer out of all the players we brought in. He's played at right back, he's played at left back, and he seems to have fitted into those formations very, very well. He loves getting down the side of the pitch. He's very, very, very attacking, and that's nice to see, and I'm sure that Pep will want that. Very good at high pressing, but we'll have to see what it's like in English leagues, because it's very competitive. It's difficult to really assess what it's like in a friendly situation compared to when the season actually truly does begin. And the final big transfer, I suppose, was Douglas Luiz, signed from Vasco da Gama. One for the future, I suppose, age 19. Bought him for £10-11 million, and he was immediately loaned out over to City's sort of affiliate club. We don't really know what's going on with that situation, over to Girona over in La Liga, to get some very, very useful, try and get some experience, I suppose, from that aspect. Now, of all the players which have gone and which have come into the club, I have to say that City are perhaps neglecting a few areas. People have talked about centre-backs, where I think we will perhaps need to buy one if we do sell Eliakim Mangala, or it's whether we give a chance perhaps to then someone like Tosin Adebayor to step up to the first team. It'll be interesting to see whether that does happen or not, whether Mangala is sold, because at the moment we probably will do with another centre-half if we are wanting to play with this three at the back formation. On top of that, I think we still could do with another striker. People have talked a lot about the people we could be signing, whether it's Sanchez, whether it's going to be Mbappe. I personally don't think either of those deals will actually go ahead. I think it's going to be hugely expensive for both of them, and to be honest with you, I just can't see City really pulling out a massive transfer to sign someone like Mbappe, who could have perhaps cost around £150 million, which for me is just absolutely ridiculous. For someone who's only had really one big season, I think it'd be a huge amount of money to really risk on that sort of player. On top of that, I think with the sale of Kelechi Iheanacho, we only do have two strikers, and if someone gets injured, I think City could be in a difficult situation in which we're going to be relying on Jesus or Aguero, just one of them, and I think we do need a plan B at times. In the past, we've had someone like a Dzeko, a tall man, and we haven't really brought in anyone into the football club who gives us that plan B still this season, and that does worry me, because there's going to be certain games where you just got to grind out a result, and at times, last year in games such as against Everton, we just weren't able to do that. And to be able to have a big man to bring on, I think would be incredibly useful in terms of just giving us a little bit more variation in the way we attack. But in terms of the players sold as well, we need to look at the people who've gone out to the football club in order to assess how good the players which we've currently got as a squad. Kelechi Iheanacho was our biggest sale. He was sold for £25 million to Leicester. There's apparently got a £50 million buyback clause, which I think is a good piece of business. If Kelechi does succeed, then we buy him back. You know, £50 million for a top Premier League striker, if he goes on and scores 20 plus goals, I think would be stupid for City not bring him back into the football club. Again, the reason why he's probably been sold is just due to the fact that he hasn't been able to get as much game time. And if he is to progress, it'd be nice to see him progress at another football club. Whether Leicester City's the right one or not, I don't know. They've got something like 8 strikers, I think, at the club in this moment in time. Whether those 8 strikers, who's going to be playing out of them, who's going to be getting the most game time, is going to be ridiculous to see. If you're a Leicester fan, you must be thinking, well, we could be playing with 6 up front this week, but nonetheless, I still think it's a decent sale. He hasn't really pushed on that last season. He wasn't able to get into the side. At times, his first touch lets him down. It's the bit which he does outside of the box, which is the problem. And if he's able to work on that and he's able to improve and score goals consistently, I think City will perhaps bring him back. A similar situation as well of Enes Unal, who was sold for around €15 million over to Villarreal. Again, he's only 20 years of age. He's got a buyback clause in his contract as well, so if he does succeed at Villarreal, we can bring him back to the football club. It's difficult to assess whether he's actually the real business or not, this player, because when he went over to Holland, he scored goals for fun, but it's a big step up then going over to La Liga and seeing what he can do there. So we'll have to assess that, and again, if he's good, I'm sure City will bring him back to the football club. Another sale from a lone player was Aaron Moy as well, going over to Huddersfield. I personally would have been interested to see what he was going to be like playing at City, but again, if he does succeed at Huddersfield, I'm sure Manchester City can perhaps exercise some sort of move and bring him back to the football club if he does look any decent. The problem is we've got so many central midfielders at the club. It was a big problem. Whether he would have been able to get game time or not is another big issue. Another sale was Nolito, who was brought into the football club last season. He's only aged 30, but still, he never really pushed on at City. He wasn't really able to challenge, and when Leroy Sané was just in scintillating form last season, it would be very, very difficult for him to have stayed at Manchester City, and he made lots of comments. He wasn't seemingly happy at the club, and to get 8 million back from him, I think we should be pretty happy with just taking that. Fernando's also been sold. He would have given us a little bit more defensive cover than the players which we actually have at the club, but again, he's aged 30, and to get £5 million for him, I think it's just happy enough just to take that. Another young lad gone is Olivier Uncham over to Celtic for £4.55 million. Again, he's a big lad, and when I've seen him play in the past, has looked very, very promising, so we'll have to assess how he goes on and does at Celtic. I think he could be a very, very good player one day. Alex Kolarov has left after a number of years, heading over to AS Roma. Very, very happy for him going over there. Also, because it means he doesn't have to play left back any longer. Joe Hart, of course, has gone on loan over to West Ham United. We'll see what he's like next season. And a couple of just minor sales like Ruben Sabino, who's gone to £2 million over to Deportivo Alaves. He was sort of one of those players City bought just to try and mix about and try and make a little bit of money on him. Of course, there's lots of players been released. Your Zabaletas, your Navas, your Caballero, Clichy. And then we've also got a huge number of people who are brought out on loan. So Alex Garcia's gone out on loan. He's gone headed over to Girona. Pablo Mari's gone over to NAC Breda. Zuccolini's gone to Verona. Over again to Girona went Marlos Moreno. Angus Gunn's gone on loan to Norwich, and he started his first game in the Championship the other week, so I'm happy for him. Hopefully he'll get some valuable experience and perhaps could work his way into the future first team Manchester City. Again, Douglas Luiz, another one heading over to Rona, and there's about 4 or 5 other players headed back over to NAC Breda once again, and Bakary Sagna, of course, is still a free agent. So assessing over the summer, I think City are in a pretty good situation in terms of transfers. Just need perhaps that one extra striker, and I think that's pretty much all we need to really push us over the edge and make us perhaps an unstoppable force perhaps in the Premier League. And of course we need to talk about the players who are yet to leave the club. So at the moment we've got a few players which are probably going to be seeing the door. As I mentioned, the possibility of Mangala, but also Samir Nasri. There could be a move for him over to Turkey. There's lots of clubs allegedly interested in him. Apparently Nice were interested, but I think that's probably going to have subsided now, the fact they've just brought in Wesley Sneijder. He's played very, very well, I have to say. I nearly sound like Roy Hodgson there for a second. He's played very well in pre-season, Samir Nasri. He could have perhaps maybe forced his way into the team, but there's been lots of talk about his off-the-pitch misdemeanours, and I think that's possibly one of the problems. He's got this overhanging problem with the drip doctors. I don't know if that's been sorted after his alleged doping scandal last season, and there's been a few other things just surrounding him and some unhappiness in the squad. So whether he'll stay, I very much doubt it, so I think there'll probably be a move for him around £10 million mark. City are allegedly holding out for him, and I think he's still a very, very decent footballer, but as I said, it's always been his attitude which has been one of the problems. And of course, there is the big debate about what has happened to Fabian Delph. Has anybody seen him? I heard they're going to be releasing a new book series. It's called Where's Delph? You have to try and find him, because nobody's seen him. He's not training. He's obviously not injured. I don't really know. Well, he could be injured. I don't honestly know. But there's been rumours of him going to Stoke City for quite a while now. He hasn't officially joined Stoke, so nobody really seems to be all too sure about what's happening with Delph. He's not training. So if anybody can tell me, where's Fabian Delph? Can we search, maybe create like a search party or something? I'm sure we'll be able to get some results as soon as possible. So thank you very much if you can help us out and find Fabian Delph. So of course we need to preview Saturday's game against Brighton. It's a 5:30 kickoff. Lots of Manchester City fans are making their way over to Brighton. Last season I desperately hoped to be able to get tickets for this game. Unfortunately it seems like tickets to this game are absolute gold dust. So if you've got your hands on them, congratulations. If anybody would be able to try and find me 2 tickets, that would help the whole world out. So if anybody can get me 2 tickets, thank you so much. Please let me know down in the comment section down below. That would help me out so much, because I desperately wanted to go to this game, but it seems like unfortunately I won't be able to go. The tickets have just gone straight away. Everybody wants to go to this fixture, but nonetheless, in terms of the Brighton fixture, they made a couple of signings themselves. Not really huge transfers. Of course, they lost their goalkeeper Stockdale to Birmingham City. They brought in a couple of players, Davy Proper, Matthew Ryan, Marcus Suttner, Pascal Gross, and a couple of other players. Isaiah Brown on loan is probably one of the bigger ones, but not really a huge amount of quality coming coming into the side, I have to say. Not really too sure about whether the players we've been bringing in will be good enough. Last season, I have to say, they were organised, but not a hugely high goal-scoring team in the Championship. They did the business lots of times, and they really should have won the league last season. They just bottled it on the last day of the season. They've got a couple of players in their side which have scored goals last season. Their main goal scorer last season was Glenn Murray. He seemed to do the business. On top of that, they've also had Anthony Knockaert, who was probably one of their better players, Tom Ahmed, and also Sam Baldock. But when you look at that side, whether those players are going to be scoring the amount of goals they scored last season in the Premier League, I think it'll be tough. Glenn Murray's always a difficult customer, scored against City plenty of times in the past. On top of that, Anthony Knockaert, he's played in the Premier League before, just a little tiny bit. Tom Ahmed, he's came over from La Liga a few years ago and has done okay. And Sam Baldock's another one who has played in the Premier League a long time ago, but whether he has the quality to step up to the Premier League is a different matter. But when I look at that Brighton side, you know they're going to be organised. They've got a decent manager. I very much rate their gaffer, of course, Chris Hughton. He knows the Premier League inside and out, and when you look at their side, I have to say it will be a tough ask for them to really stay up this season. But if they are able to avoid relegation, I'm sure that's their principal massive aim for this season. I think they could do. They've got a lot of players in their side which are fairly decent. They will be organised, and it should be up to City. It's their prerogative to try and break them down. I'm sure they'll put in a very big effort, and it's City have got a big task really to go their first game of the season, to put down a marker and hopefully set up for the rest of the season. Defensively, they're fairly strong. They've got some good players at the back. Lewis Duncan, for example, has done the business for a while. Also, they brought in Shane Duffy last season, who does okay from time and time again. And of course, they've also got some decent players in midfield like Berham Kayal have also signed. And of course, they brought in Steve Sidwell last season as well, another player with lots of Premier League experience. So as a side, they've got players who've been around in the Premier League. They've got a huge prerogative to try and hopefully help themselves to stay up for this season. But I should hope that the fact that City have spent a ridiculous amount of money last summer really means that City should have to win these sort of games. We've struggled in these fixtures in the past, but in reality, we spent about £220 million this summer, whereas they've spent around 15, 20 at the most. So we have a huge responsibility to go to this game and win. Whether it'll happen or not, that's a big question. Hopefully, City will be able to show their quality from the pre-season fixtures and then push on from there. But it's a big game. It's a game where we have to put our marker down for the season, and hopefully the quality in our side. These are games which we certainly have to win, irrelevant of the fact that we're actually playing against the side which is their first couple of games in the league. But nonetheless, a big fixture. City will have to go there, set down a marker for the first game of the season, and hopefully they'll be able to do it. And with the amount of money which City have spent, the general quality in the side, I believe that City have the best midfield in the Premier League. I think we've got the best striker in the Premier League in Sergio Aguero. I think we've got one of the best centre-backs in the league in Vincent Kompany. Now, as a side, we've got some quality players. This season, I think City, with the amount of money they've spent and with the fact that we do have Pep Guardiola as manager, I think if City don't win the league, it'll be a massive failure for the club. It's been a while now since we've won the league. It'll be our 4th season since we've won it. And if City don't win it, there'll be lots and lots of questions asked at the end of the season. For me, winning the league has to be the main priority this season. And with the amount of money which City have spent and the quality in the side, for me, it has to be justified at the end of the season with a league win. Whether that'll happen or not, that is a lot of things to see. There's a decent quality in the Premier League this season. Manchester United brought in a decent striker in Lukaku. They brought in a quality midfield partnership with Ander Herrera and Pogba in bringing in Matic. They've spent a lot of money themselves. They're a very big team. I think they'll win some games this season, but again, there's still a few teething issues with a few of their players which they brought into the club still from last season, whether Pogba's the business. We saw in the Super Cup last night whether they're able to be really mixing it with the big boys, and next season we'll have to see. But for me, they've got to be a side challenging City. I look at Arsenal. They've brought in some good players into the side. Lacazette's a goal scorer, and on top of that, they've got Klasnic, who solved the problem for them at left back. But generally, will they have the quality and will they have the mentality to try and push for the league this season, considering the amount of quality which City have in their side? We'll have to see. Tottenham Hotspur, another side, although they haven't made any signings yet, which is just absolutely ridiculous considering the amount of money and investment which they have now in their side, especially the Kyle Walker money, £50 million, from the massive TV rights monies from the last couple of seasons as well. It's very strange to see a top Premier League side not bringing in anybody at this point in the season. Whether they'll have the quality, especially now they're playing on what seems to be a Tottenham Hotspur ancient Indian burial ground of a side playing at Wembley Stadium. Whether they'll be able to do well there or not is a completely different matter as well. I think they're going to struggle this season. Liverpool have brought in some quality in Mohamed Salah, also pretty decent. I mean, as a whole side, they start the season very well. Whether they'll have the quality to push us all the way at the end again is another question. And again, as well, the other side in the mix is, of course, the last season's winners, Chelsea. They've got a lot of quality still in their side, still very good defensively. Whether they get the same amount of goals last season as they did, if they decide to get rid of Costa, apparently he's been told he's free to go. Whether Morata and, of course, Batshuayi will be able to push on and get the same amount of goals as they did last season, I think it'll be tough. And also losing Matic, I've seen a lot of Chelsea fans saying, well, he's not that important for us, he's not the same player he was a few years ago. For me, I still think he's a very, very important player, and there will be questions asked if Bakayoko isn't able to step up to the level of Matic from the last couple of seasons. And also the fact that because they have to play in the Champions League, they haven't got the easy ride they had last season, so they've got a tough task. And for me, City this year really should put the marker down, and they should be expected to be the side which wins the league this season. So there's lots of quality in the Premier League, lots of money's been spent. The transfer market these days is just absolutely ridiculous, but still, that's what happens in a world where teams get massive TV rights deals, massive amounts of money. It was always going to happen. But nonetheless, getting into this season, I'm so excited. Please let me know down in the comments section down below where you think City will finish this season. Remember, I'm saying this as a Manchester City fan who's incredibly pessimistic, and I'm saying that City have to win the league this season. I'm not saying we will. I'm not saying that necessarily my prediction is that we will win the league. I'm saying that as a club, with the amount of money and the amount of investment City has spent over the last couple of years, winning the league is an absolute necessity. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know, like I just said, the answers to those questions. Also, let me know if you can find Fabian Delph. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Also hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And of course, leave some comments and check out all the different things in the description down below. Arrivederci.